All right, I'm currently on the phone with Ash. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview session. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, this is Ash Morse and I'm from Sydney, Australia. I am a multi-instrumentalist. I play drums, piano, a bit of guitar. I sing all of my own stuff, and I've been playing for about 25 years now. I took a really big break right in the middle because I had a lot of pressure from external family and friends saying, okay, life's getting on, you've got to get yourself a real job, and in inverted commas, of course. And so I gave into that pressure at some point and went and got qualified in psychology and anthropology. But music just kept calling me back. So here I am, back at the age of 39, releasing 2 albums this year. And yeah.
All right. Well, so tell me about, the beginning of all that. When you first kind of encountered music, what about it really pulled you into it and made you want to pursue it?
It actually started with romance, would you believe? I was that guy. I don't know if you've seen Glee, but I was that guy in Glee who was in sport, and I was really interested in this girl in high school when I was there. And she was in music, and every lunchtime she was in rehearsals and stuff. And so I was like, oh man, I want to hang out with this person. So I joined them as well, and it kind of kicked off from there. I don't even know what happened to her. I think she left the school at some point, but I was so immersed in music from the time that I started that I just continued. The school organized this tour in China when I was in the 9th grade. And that was, going on tour at that age was such an eye-opening experience. I just was hooked from the time that I started, and I just kept falling in love from there.
Okay, so tell me about, that first interaction with it. Was it vocals and choir kind of thing? Or was it like concert band? Give me a little bit more detail about that.
Yeah, so it was a vocal group that she was in to begin with. And so I was really lucky to have been surrounded by, and we had really great tutors. I was getting tutored and I didn't even know it from the get-go. We were doing all of the warm-ups and all of the runs and all the drills. And so from a very young age, I was surrounded by that multi-layered harmony and very good structure with vocal stuff. So I didn't even have specific tutoring myself for a long time. I wish I did. I wish I continued, but had a very good foundation from there. And then so with drums, I don't know if you've seen the photos of me there, me playing drums. I actually always wanted to be a drummer because my dad and my older brother were very good drummers. And my parents said, no more drums, because anyone who's lived in a drumming household knows that people learning drums is a massive headache. And I was persistent. I was really, really into them and said, no, but that's what I want to do. So they said, okay, if you learn piano first, we'll think about it. So I was learning piano against my will, much to my disgust. But I'm really glad that I did, because that ended up being my primary instrument. I still play drums a lot, but I got a good foundation in harmony and theory because of that. And every time my brother would be practicing, I would be watching keenly, and then he'd get off the drums and go away somewhere, and I would continue doing exactly what he was doing. And so I moved into drums and was playing in the stage band, the concert band, every music group the school had. And then I was going into music groups outside of school, and it continued from there. Drums became a huge part of my life for a good 15 years.
Okay, so tell me about how that progressed. Like, once you kind of felt comfortable with it, did you start looking for other musicians to play with? Or was it kind of geared towards writing your own music? What was kind of the idea you were working with?
One day, at the age of just as I was turning 16, this song came to me, and I didn't really understand the depths of theory, but I could sit down and work it out in the piano. And so my music kind of started at that point. All these songs just started drip feeding in. But at the same time, when I was on that tour in China, I forged a really close friendship with a guy. He actually lives in the States. He's in LA. His name's TJ Power. And he and I and another friend started this band, a rock band. And just because we wanted to jam to begin with. But it came about in a really interesting way, because we were doing, how they do photos every year, like for the yearbook. We were just a jam group, and we went up to the photographers and we're like, oh, we're the rock band, like we're the school rock band. And we just made it up. And there was this guy walking away with a bass, this really skinny kid they're like, "Hey kid, come and stand here." And so we became, and he ended up being the bass player for the rest of the time. We called ourselves Destonia, and that was the beginning of a really, really good, solid, and joyful chapter of my life.
Awesome. And then, so what was that project consisting of? Did you guys record a couple albums and then kind of move on, or what's the history there?
It became really serious really quickly. So the father of TJ was a very enthusiastic and structured man, and he believed in this project so much that he called all the parents together, and we were having meetings and doing fundraisers and entering competitions. And yes, very quickly we had a manager, and the manager organized for us to do our first album called Going Places, which is pretty funny. And it was a terrible album, but it was a lot of fun. And then we ended up doing two or three more over the time. Built quite a close knit community around us. Every Friday afternoon we'd get together and jam and write, and we'd have about 30 friends over, and we'd all play football and have a barbecue, and then we'd get together and just play. And it was one of those things in life where you don't realize how special it is at the time, but just having that constant connection with a really, really close group of friends, that's what Destonia was all about.
Okay, and how long did that work out for you?
I was just trying to think. I think we might have played our last show. Good question. 2004-ish, I think. So, yeah, about 10 years.
Okay, and was that obviously prior to your family kind of pressuring you to focus on studies and things like that? But tell me about that transition of having music kind of forced out of your life.
So there's a bit of a backstory just before that, because I launched my own music in 2004. I went to the Conservatorium of Music to study classical composition because I always wanted to compose for film, and I love orchestral music. And I also love jazz music because I was in a swing band, having a lot of fun doing that. And so those two influences brought me to a point where and because I was miserable at the conservatorium, that's a whole other story. I would spend all of my time in the practice rooms composing this album of mine that ended up being quite jazz and funk influenced. And I released that in 2005. Very quickly, because of my older brother Jared, who was touring and playing all the time. He knew heaps of musicians, and he pulled a band together for me. And I did my first album and released it. And within a very short space of time, I was playing on national TV and national radio, and the band, as far as I could see, was going quite well. But it wasn't making a lot of money, and that's where the family was coming in and saying, "Look, this is all great. It's fine that you're having fun, but it's time. You're in your 20s now. It's time to start building a future." And that message was relentless to the point where, yeah, within a few years, and I couldn't see the financial thing changing much. I went, all right, I'll put the music on hold for a little bit, and I'll go and get qualified and get a stable career, and then I'll come straight back to it. And nearly 10 years went by in that vortex of struggle and trying to get to a place where I felt like I had enough and it was okay to come back. And all things changed for me when my dad passed away in 2019. He was also struggling really hard to get his life to a point where he felt like everything was fine again, and was sacrificing everything left, right, and center to pull that off. And he never got there. And it was just a really eye-opening experience for me that there are no guarantees in life. You can make all the plans you want, and you can work as hard as you like, but if you're not doing the thing that matters to you now, it could all be over today, tomorrow, very soon. And it rocked my foundation so much that I couldn't help but make the choice, no matter what happened, to have music at the center of my life and to do the things that matter now. So, yeah, in 2020, I was working hard on the album. Oh, actually, no, it's a little bit there. So I made a decision in 2020 to release an album again. And so I was working, ironically, 3 jobs back to back, 7 days a week in really harsh conditions sometimes to pull it off. And it was only that a friend of the family who was keenly watching my career or watching the situation, and who was in a financial position to help me out, kind of pulled me aside and said, "I see what you're doing, and I see how hard you work, and I've been affected positively by your music and been hoping that I could be in a position to help." They were able to, in a sense, sponsor some of a large part of that project, and so I was able to stop working myself to the bone and just purely focus on that one album. And it was the album that I thought that everybody wanted to hear, which was really weird. But when you're in a position, and tell me if I'm talking too long, um, when you're in a position of sacrificing as much as I was and putting myself through so much heartache to get the money that I needed to make, it's really difficult to take a financial risk and just do the songs that I love, not needing them to do well, if that makes sense. So I was doing a lot of the happy songs and the songs that I thought that when I played live, people really enjoyed. But she just had this incredible knack for seeing things from the sidelines. And she said, "I see you have a lot of fun with those songs and you really like them. But what are the songs that light your soul on fire?" And I said, I've got that album up on the shelf that I'll do one day when I've made my money and I don't need to make money, and I'll just do it for me. And she said, "What if you did that album now?" And we went back and forth, and I was telling her why I don't think it's a good idea. And then she eventually convinced me to do that album regardless of how it does. And because I wasn't taking all the financial risk, there was no better time to do it. So I parked the happy songs, and it was kind of a terrifying experience. I didn't realize it would be, but doing the songs that were really vulnerable to me, and not needing them to do well, was a really strange and confronting experience. But we did it, and that album came out in 2022. And to my surprise and relief, it really resonated with a lot of people. And to this day, continues to be a very special album for lots of people who keep reaching out to me. I did a small tour last year, and everywhere I played, there were tears and there were hugs, and it was just a really beautiful, heartwarming experience to have that deep connection with strangers and, in a sense, that validation that I was on the right track.
That's awesome to get that kind of feedback for, something that you're passionate about and you're very nervous about actually releasing. That's great.
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate and continue to be. And I'm actually going back on a similar tour this coming weekend to meet, because people have been reaching out to me from those country towns and saying, "When are you coming back?" And so I've organized another small tour to go and play at some of the same venues and bring them my new album that I released. It's finished. I finished it in January. And there's another little twist for everyone. I had a heart attack just before Christmas, and it put a grinding halt. Yeah, it was wild because I've always been a pretty fit fella, and it put a grinding halt on everything that I was doing. After the success of that first album, the person who was able to sponsor me said, "Don't stop now. You need to keep going. What else have you got?" So with basically no break, I've got 2 more albums coming, and after the heart attack, I felt it was really important to get all of it out. And there were all these songs that were just piano. They didn't have all the big orchestral arrangements and the multi-harmony stuff that I was really into with the last album. It's just literally me sitting on a piano, singing my heart out about what it was like to grow up in a family, the highs and the lows and the strains and the unspoken stuff, and losing dad, and all these very, very tender and raw emotions. And yeah, I sat down and we finished that album in about a week. The other one took 6 months to finish, and this one I just sat down and it just came.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're really harnessing what you've been through to kind of keep putting out the material, and it's motivated you to just keep writing and producing.
Yeah. I think once I realized that it's not as scary as I thought to break yourself wide open, and it's almost what people are craving in a world where it's not okay to feel deeply, and where we're so obsessed with what's perfect and interesting and comparing ourselves to all the successes that we're constantly being fed. It's almost a relief to hear that it's not all perfect and that's okay.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so where can people find your new albums and then, your passion project album? What are your social media links? Where can people find you?
Okay, so I think the best places are YouTube and Instagram at the moment. I'm just starting TikTok again. Um, it was a strange and unknown beast to me a while ago, but I'm getting my head around it, and I'll start releasing things on there as well. But the best place to hear full versions of the songs, if any of the streaming links, like any places like Spotify, if you search Ash, ASH Morse, Morse, like Morse code, you'll find that on Instagram is Ash Morse official because I thought I was going to be famous one day. Um, on Spotify, it's the same Ash Morse. YouTube, I think, is Ash Morse Music or Ash Morse Channel. I'm not sure, but if you search Ash Morse, you'll see you'll find a whole range of my stuff: the happy music, the sad music, the family one, and in July I'll be releasing a whole new thing. But pretty much anywhere you listen to music, it's all there. Just search Ash Morse wherever you go.
Awesome. So I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message that you have that you want to share with people?
I think it's twofold. The first one is that realization that I had throughout this entire process that spending your time on things that you think you should be doing is always going to be a waste compared to the stuff that matters to you. And you're the only one who has to answer to yourself at the end. So you might as well do the thing you love. Um, and and it's okay for it not to be perfect is the second part, because sometimes those imperfections are the things that deeply touch and move people. And so don't waste too much time trying to be as perfect as everyone else seems on the internet, because we're not. We're all flawed, and sometimes the flaws are the things that make you beautiful. So dive into that and just enjoy the process.